Hello there! Today, I watched Daliland. Now I want to tell you about it. To start off, Daliland is a movie about the famous painter Salvadore Dali. Salvadore Dali is played by Ben Kingsley and his wife Gala is played by Barbara Sakoa. The story is from the perspective of a man named James who met him and served as his assistant for a short time. James, played by Christopher Briney, experiences the extraordinary world of the painter and finds out who the man really is. Directed by Mary Herron and written by John Walsh, this film delves into the mythological figure that surrounds the artist and paints a realistic picture of the man. It lays his flaws and strengths down for all to see and tries to show who he was to the people around him. Before we get too far into it, there are a few things I should address right off the bat. Number one, this movie mixes truth and fiction and I was never sure what was true. It definitely seems like parts of the story are exaggerated for effect, but Dali was a weird guy and the film left out some of the strangest parts of his life. The film does cover a real period of time Dali spent in New York and presents real facts from his life, but the events with James are fiction. The film has a lot of nudity, drugs, alcohol, and cursing in it. It's following an exceptionally weird artist, and this is definitely a ride on the wild side. For example, at one point there's a threesome with a man watching in the corner. It doesn't explicitly show the sex, but there is partial nudity throughout the film and simulated acts of sex. Dali also talks about sex, paints with sex in mind, and makes sex a large part of his identity. If you don't like sex in your stories, this movie likely isn't for you. Sex is central to the plot. The other issue to address is Ezra Miller. Due to his recent actions, people might be inclined to skip this one because of his presence. Let me say that he is an incredibly small part of the film and speaks one line of dialogue. He plays the younger version of Dali, and his performance is actually quite good. He shows off the problems Dali had in his younger years through brief flashbacks. We learn why Gala means so much to him, and his passion and ability to emote without speaking shine. The story is a twisted tale of perspective. James is a young man who looks up to Dali, and he takes everything Dali says quite seriously. The people around Dali, however, keep pointing out contradictions in Dali's actions. The film continues chronicling their time together until James and Dali split. It then time jumps to 1985 and shows us one last encounter between the two. The ending leaves us to wonder if any of the magical world that Dali created was ever real, or if it was all a fabrication of a damaged mind. It tells us all about Dali, how he got started, how he met his wife, and what she meant to him over the years, and how abusive their relationship became over time. We learn about who he chose to surround himself with, and the film pulls back the curtains on the whole bunch to reveal all their dirty little secrets. It develops Gala and Dali well, and lets James serve as a vessel for the audience to experience the weirdness of Daliland. The story takes a lot of twists and turns, but in the end it all makes sense. It's an exciting tale of a man who presents himself as larger than life, having that image stripped away, only to find something confusing at his core. The cast is easily one of the best parts of the film. Majority of the screen time is dedicated to Ben Kingsley as Salvadore Dali and James played by Christopher Briney. Barbara Sakoa comes in close as a runner-up, and the rest of the cast supplements with minor roles. Ben Kingsley as Dali is eccentric, passionate, and charismatic, but also a little sad. We spend time with him as he espouses wonderfully poetic nonsense about the world, watch as he enjoys himself at different gatherings, and see him talk about his art with incredible passion. He draws us in so well that even when the film starts chipping away at his image, you can still enjoy him as a flawed human. Christopher Briney plays James, a young man caught up in Dali's greatness who ends up going on a short adventure with Dali. He acts as a vessel for the audience to view Dali, but his performance is filled with emotion. He really looks up to the artist, and you can see it in his expression and the way he follows after him like a little kid. Barbara Sakoa plays Gala, Dali's wife and manager. She motivates him to work, controls most aspects of his life, and serves as his greatest comfort. Despite this, Sakoa plays Gala as a mean and selfish woman. Her actions and the way she goes about the world make you hate her. But then there's these small moments where she opens up that make you empathize with her again. Sakoa shines in these little moments where she gets to soften and give you a peek at the woman underneath. Together with the supporting cast, they paint a nuanced picture of an eccentric artist. Visually, the film has a lot of nice sets and locations, does a good job of capturing the actors' performances, has a lot of nudity, but is held back by its quality. The camera shakes a lot. There are night scenes that are poorly lit, and even though there are interesting settings in the background, the film doesn't utilize them in the story. They did a good job of matching the time period and the crazy art parties that people like Dali were known for. They filled them with fancifully dressed people of all different shapes and sizes, and there was always something weird going on in the areas around Dali. There are also a few scenic shots of the coast. Dali meets his wife on a beach, and later they revisit that area in his old age. It's a beautiful setting and an inspiration for one of his pieces. A few times where they go for big emotional moments, they do a great job of capturing the raw emotion being let out by the actors and combining it with great music. Sound-wise, the film is filled with original tracks. There are 70s classics, some Spanish guitar, and a few background instrumentals for emotional moments. It's catchy and fun, follows the mood well, and at times the soundtrack becomes a huge part of the scenery. One scene in particular stood out. Dali is attending one of his own shows, and there's a guitarist soloing at the party. As things spiral out of control, the song gets faster and more hectic, culminating in an explosive finish. It's a great scene where the music sets the tone and puts you on edge. Overall, Dali was an eccentric film that is highly entertaining. Dali lives in an extravagant world, but the film strips him down and shows you who he is at his core. It features great performances by Ben Kingsley and Barbara Sikoa, has a fun and vibrant soundtrack, and takes you into the world of high-profile artists. The visuals could have been more stable, and it's not trying anything new, but it is a well-done film. 8 out of 10. And remember, those are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Bye-bye!